Did you know that anxiety can be a symptom of perimenopause? I certainly didn't until it happened to me. This week, I'm sharing my experience of hormonal anxiety so you can learn from my mistakes. Welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 244. This week, we're talking about hormonal anxiety, hormones and anxiety together in the one episode at last. This episode, I'm really excited to share with you. Before we get into it, the best bite that I had was on the weekend, not last weekend, the weekend before. I made my ginger self-sourcing puddings. It's one of those cake things that has brown sugary ginger sauce and then cake on the top, and then we had it with cream. It's something that I hadn't made in years and years, and I did the full sugar full flour version, and it was so good. Recipes on Stonesoup, definitely Google that if you're a ginger fan, because I use a heap of grated fresh ginger in it. It's got that warmth and heat from the fresh ginger, the other business, and then the brown sugary caramel flavors. It's so good. Hormonal anxiety. This week, I'm going to share with you. First of all, we'll talk about my story of hormonal anxiety and my experience. And then the next thing I'll share with you is how I manage these episodes now that I've had some experience with them and finding a way to navigate them. And then I've got about 10 habits that I have to support and improve my mental health because as I'm discovering, it's great to have great physical health, but mental health is just as important, if not more important. I'll share with you my habits that are supporting that. Basically, what happened, I think the first episode that I really remember of this was last year. It would have been mid last year. I was working with a business coach and it's actually he was live coaching call with 600 people on the Zoom call, right? And I'd just got back from a run and wasn't expecting to go onto this Zoom call to appear on camera. Anyway, so the coach was getting us to do this goal setting exercise. So I did that, and then what emotions are coming up for you? And I just noticed as I was writing out my goals and what I wanted, this huge wave of fear came over me. Dread, not panic. It was just fear coming all over my body. And there was this tingling in my fingers, feeling adrenaline going into my fingers. That's what it was like. And so, of course, on the call, he's typing in the chat, what feelings are you experiencing as you think about your goals? And rate the feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 of how intense. And I'm fear, an 8 out of 10. So of course he calls on me to talk through my fear and get me coached on my fear, right? And I remember at the time just going, first of all, being horrified that I was going to be on camera in front of all those people sweaty in my workout gear. But just being really mystified. Why was I having such a strong reaction, an actual fear-based reaction to something that I wanted, something I was excited about? It just didn't make any sense to me. And he coached me on it. It didn't really help that much. But that was kind of the first thing. And then I had quite a bit of other things that happened last year in particular, and this year as well, stressful life things, where I would have this really strong nervous system response to the circumstances were stressful, but what's wrong with me? I should be able to handle this. Why am I freaking the freak out about this? I had a family member in and out of hospital with mental health problems, which was intense, but it was like, why am I reacting so strongly? And it's kind of been puzzling me ever since. And more recently, what happened, so I've kind of gone between, it's hormones. I did learn about anxiety can be a symptom of perimenopause. I was like, okay, it's the hormones. And then I'm like, oh no, maybe it's me. And I've been vacillating between the two. And then what happened was a few weeks ago, I had this strong nervous system response again, like this strong fear response. I was sitting at my desk looking at a spreadsheet that I've looked at millions of times, right? A work spreadsheet. And I was also thinking about posting on Instagram again. I'd stopped taking a break and I was like, no, I should get back into doing that. Looking at a spreadsheet, thinking about posting on Instagram. That could be stressful for my nervous system thinking about sharing on Instagram, but nothing really bad's ever happened to me sharing on Instagram before. I was like, this is so crazy. And it was a really strong, just took over my body. And I had the adrenaline in my fingers and my heart racing, and I was, whoa, really freaking out. Kind of got out of my studio, went for a walk, and I ended up just texting my mindset coach and just saying, hey, you around? And she was free. She was like, do you want to jump on a Zoom call? And I was like, absolutely. And so we did. And it was so great to be with her. I was just saying what was going on and how I was freaking out. And she was observed what was going on for me. And she knows me quite well. We've coached together for a long time. And she was just said to me, Jules, does it feel a little bit what happens when you get a hot flash? And I was like, yeah, it does. It's a different experience, but it comes on suddenly, and then there seems there's a trigger, but it's not. She was like, it just seems like it's like hormonal, and I was like, wow, okay. In that moment, we're going, oh, that feels good. And so then we did some work on me calming myself and soothing myself and uncovering that one of the things that was really freaking me out about it was I didn't know what was going on. And I also had this story in my head that I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do to calm myself or to take care of my body. And that felt really bad for me because I'm so dialed in with exercise, movement. I take really good care of my body and like the food piece, listening to my body, not overeating very much, letting my body help me decide how much food to eat, like being guided by that. The thought that I couldn't take care of my body, I didn't know what my body needed, just felt really, that made me freak out even more. And that was good to uncover that with my coach. And she got me to do a couple of things. And I was like, oh, actually, I do know how to take care of myself. And with her guidance, I was like, oh yeah, I need to move. And so we did some movement stuff. And then she had to go. And so I just kept going with checking in with myself and taking care of myself. And it was such a huge game changer, right? Just to go, right, okay, this is a hormonal response. I know how to take care of myself. Those two thoughts have been game changing for me. And so let's now talk about how I manage these episodes when they happen. And it's only happened a couple of times since I had that coaching with Lara. Actually, shout out to Lara Day if you ever want an amazing, supportive, creative mindset coach. She's your girl. Yeah, so how I manage it now is when it starts to happen, I'm like, I notice it and I name it. So I'm like, oh, my body's having this hormonal stress response again. And I just start to think into myself, how am I feeling? And just noticing, oh yeah, I've got that. There's that rushing that adrenaline in my fingers feeling again, and my heart's starting to pound again. And just and then what I do, so I name what's going on. And then the next thing I do is I check in with myself, and it's closing my eyes a bit and just check in with my heart. Okay, what do I need now? And sometimes it's to run. Sometimes it's to get outside. Yesterday it was to get outside and be outside. And so I just walked down to our mailbox and then walked back. And then I was like, checked in again, and it was going to the monkey bars. So I was like, okay, I'll go into the monkey bars. And I'd lay there and just, yeah, this is how I manage it. It's different every day. And the other cool thing that I'm now able to do, now that I know that it's hormonal and that it'll pass, is that I'm not freaking out, which keeps it from escalating. The freak out definitely made it worse. So the symptoms are less. So that really helps. And then I'm actually able to keep going with my day. So when it happened to me yesterday, I was in doing some work. And so I just went, okay, no, I feel this, I see it, I know what's going on here. Do I want to keep going with this work? And that felt good to get what I had said I wanted to get done to that day done. So I just kept going with the work. And then after work time, I did the check-in stuff and changed it. So now it's not such a big deal because I know what to do, and it doesn't have to completely disrupt my day. So let's now talk about some habits that I use to improve my mental health. And so these are things that are proactive, that help my mental health, help reduce the incidence of anxiety, but that hormonal stuff's still happening, and there's a big list here. So buckle in. There's a lot of things which is good news. Like there are a lot of little habits that you can add into your life that are going to have a huge impact on your mood and how you feel and how resilient you are and how well you're able to navigate the stressful stuff. And then also if you're having these hormonal experiences as well, which I hope you aren't, but if you are, these can help as well. So one thing that I've stopped doing, that's always helpful to start with, is I've stopped doing any sort of extended fasting. So I do practice, I actually don't even think of it as intermittent fasting. So every day I've usually finished dinner around 7 o'clock at the latest, sometimes 7:30, and then I don't eat anything again till lunch the next day. But that's just how my body feels really good. So it's not, I'm knuckling it going, I can't wait to eat until 1 o'clock. That's the rhythm of my life. But I've done a 3-day fast. I used to do 1 or 2 days a week where I would do a 36-hour fast where I wouldn't eat for a whole day. And it used to be Sunday night would be my last meal, and then Tuesday lunch would be my next meal. And so what used to happen on Mondays, I'd be feeling good during the day, but then come evening time, even if I wasn't super hungry, I just noticed that my mood would be really low. I'd have the horrors and just be feeling really down. So because I now listen to my body and I don't need to fast to manage my weight, I'm great. I don't need to put myself through that misery anymore. So that's one thing that I have cut out. And I think with that, having stable blood sugar is really, I haven't looked at any research on this, but my intuition tells me that you don't want your blood sugar to be too low, you don't want it to be too high, because the hormones, everything interacts with each other. So having stable blood sugar, the things that I do to keep myself healthy from a diabetes perspective, they're helpful for mental health as well. And I've actually been experimenting with, because I had been having a few more desserts, so going back to being a bit more intentional with my desserts and just doing it once a week rather than 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, and just noticing that that's definitely helping with the hormone stuff, which of course helps with the anxiety stuff. Cutting out fasting, stable blood sugar, movement, seriously. And I've always done this. So I run, 5 or 6 days a week, and I also walk. I'm very active. I garden, definitely not a problem. And I remember actually, so after there was probably a period of about 2 years where I wasn't running after having Virgil and Fimba, and it was just didn't fit in with life. So I would walk with them, put them in the pram. So I was moving, but I wasn't running. And I remember listening to a podcast about how good running was for brain health. And I was like, I'm going to go for a run. So I figured it out, went for a run. And then I remember just coming home and feeling so good. And let's keep going with this running thing. So that still has a huge impact. And if you're not a runner, I'm sure there's other forms of that kind of I don't think it has to be super high intensity, but enough intensity to give you the endorphins. A friend of mine cycles, and that works for him. So yeah, doing some sort of activity that gives you endorphins, highly recommend it. Another source of natural endorphins, so that feels really good, and that I still can't believe that I do, is having cold showers. So that's something that I've introduced more recently, and that definitely, it feels like you feel really fresh, but there's also, you get this kind of endorphin, just good buzz. It's a little bit like a caffeine buzz, but in a cleaner, less angsty way. It just feels really good. So cold showers, definitely work your way up with that, right? So don't start, I do like a 90-second cold shower, but you start with 5 or 10 seconds and then work your way up to more. But I do notice a difference. Then I've got supplements that I take for brain health and mental health. So fish oil, I take a lot of the 3 triple strength capsules of fish oil. There's a lot of research on the benefits of fish oil, not just for mental health and brain health, but for heart health, everything health. So highly recommend getting your omega-3s. And if you're vegan, there are other, get omega-3 supplements. Magnesium is another one that I take religiously. And that's, I know if I'm not getting enough magnesium, because I start to get cramping and constipation. So that's not negotiable for me. And then I've also been experimenting this year with taking creatine. And I was talking to some friends of mine recently about creatine, and they were saying that actually increased the amount, their dose. And there's a lot of research on the cognitive benefits of creatine. That's something that it's not just for bodybuilders, although it is nice for muscle growth as well. Then in terms of other habits, something that I started last year and that was feeling really good, and then for some reason I stopped doing it as much, is the Wim Hof method breathing technique. So I was doing it 3 times a day, and earlier in the year I was feeling great. Like I felt my hormones were great and in balance, and I actually wasn't hardly having any of these anxiety episodes. And then for some reason I stopped doing the breathing. So in the last probably 2 weeks, I've realized that. So I brought that back in, and I already feel like I'm getting less symptoms. So I feel like that's something that I want to continue. So if you Google Wim Hof, it's WIMHOFF, and his breathing technique, there's an app as well. So that's definitely worth checking out. And I think the way that that works is it's really good for reducing cortisol, so stress hormone in your body. Cortisol, of course, impacts with the sex hormones. So if you get your cortisol in balance, then that means you have less menopausal symptoms, so like anxiety. And it feels really good. It's really relaxing as well. What else? Other habits? Journaling. So actually getting the thoughts out can be really helpful. That I find that really helpful for helping me process negative emotion on just whatever's coming up. So sometimes I'll just write what's on my mind. Sometimes I'll write a list of, actually a good question to ask yourself, good journal prompt is, what am I afraid of, or what am I fearful of? One of my Naturally Healthy Club members got me onto that. And so you just get all the fears out on paper, and then you can do a little release them ceremony ritual, which feels really good to release these fears and let them go. Another is, I've got a really long list here, but we might wrap it up there. Like, another one is doing more check-ins with my body and how my body's feeling at various times in the day. And if I am feeling a bit anxious, just checking in, what does my body need right now? And checking in with closing my eyes and feeling into my heart. And also sometimes feeling in my gut. What are my heart and gut telling me? And oftentimes there'll be a message there. So I've been, where possible, acting on the messages from my heart, which sounds a bit spacey, but it makes a difference, actually. I really like it. Okay, so that was a lot, I know, and if you are experiencing hormonal anxiety or other anxiety, totally my heart goes out to you. And just know that you can change this, right? There are things that you can do to help. And of course, there are I do take HRT, I do take hormones as well. So that's definitely something that I recommend. I can't believe I didn't include that in my list. Getting that support is really, I find, helpful. So just know that you can change this. Doesn't have to always be like that. And wishing you all the best this week, and I will catch you next week.